All right, it's anniversary time for Valentine, 20 years old right now, and we are in February. I believe this came out February 2nd of 2001, which makes this right on the month 20 years old. And I watched it one more time, of course, in preparation for Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, by the way. And this will be my third official time watching it. My first being when it came out, so I was probably like 12 or something like that. And once when I bought it, and then once right now, just before this review. And it's a well-packed slasher, I would say. It's got a great killer with a great look to him. And it's a classic film that feels 90s, although it was made in the early 2000s. Still has that vibe to it, though. It's the original cover art. Beautiful release from Screen Factory that is packed with features that I'll be touching on a little bit as well. Of course, mostly I'm going to be talking about the film itself, obviously. And I had a lot of fun with it. Like I said, it's a typical slasher that really hits all the tropes and is Valentine's Day themed and does a good job with it. So the film starts off at a school dance in 1988, a time where I was not alive yet for another year. And yeah, this kid is basically asking these girls to dance, and he's, a nerdy looking kid. He's really shy and awkward and bullied a lot, and the girls are just being little cunts and rejecting him in really rude ways, like, ew, like sixth graders would do. And he just keeps going around and asking girls to dance and keeps getting shut down and rejected, and he finds this other girl named Dorothy, who he asks to dance, and she's a little plumper, she's chubbier, and she's sitting alone, and she's lonely, so she says yes, and later on they end up making out underneath the bleachers in which a bunch of asshole douchebags come to bully them, and they call her Buffalo, and they call him Pervert, because they just assume that he was, attacking her or whatnot. And her being a sixth grade, insecure, chubby girl kind of goes with it and kind of lies and says that he was, coming on strong to her and being a pervert and all that. So you get a little homage to Carrie where he has a bowl of punch spilt on him and it's red, so that's why I say it's kind of an homage to Carrie. And he's stripped of his clothes and he's embarrassed in the school dance. And I was bullied in high school, of course, not to that extent, but watching this happen, I kind of felt for the kid a lot because, uh, lo and behold, there were times where I would ask, a bunch of girls to dance when I was in grade 5 and 6 and constantly get rejected. Usually politely, but, you still get the hint when somebody's like, yeah, maybe later. I'm kind of tired right now. My feet hurt. It's like, yeah, okay, I get it. I get it. I'm a nerd. Okay? I was a geek. Whatever. Uh, I made up for lost time, so no worries. In my adult life. So yeah, it's a really sad thing to see, and it hits home for a lot of people, I'm sure. The outcasts of elementary school and high school and whatnot. And then you flash forward to 13 years later, where, everything begins, basically, with these 5 girls as adults, played by, I don't know if I wrote them all down. Denise Richards plays Paige. Marley Shelton plays Kate. These are obviously the main girls. Dorothy, I did not get that actress's name. Shame on me. I'll put it, over here when I edit this. And then you've got Jeremy, who was the little kid that was bullied at the beginning of the film, who, obviously comes back as the killer for revenge. This is a spoiler review, if you've read the title. And then you got Shelley, which is another girl that bullied this kid. She's the first one to die, played by Katherine Heigl, who doesn't really like to mention that she was in horror movies in her past. She doesn't like to live that start of her career, or talk about it very much. She's not in any interviews in this collector's edition, even though Denise Richards and Marley Shelton and Jessica Kaufel, who played Lily, come back for some interviews recently. So in the last 2 years or so, which I love. I mean, it's great to see actors and actresses appreciate, roles that they had in their early 20s or mid 20s or whatnot, and really talk about their experiences on set and with the directors and everything. So yeah, you're introduced to these 5 girls grown up: Shelley, Lily, Paige, Kate, and Dorothy. Dorothy being the chubby girl as a teen, preteen, but growing up to lose weight and become more popular amongst her 4 other friends. And you get Shelley starting off on a date with this guy named Jason, and this film really portrays every guy in it to be a dork or a loser or a creep. Like hardcore to comedic levels. Like there's certain segments in this film that are lifted straight out of comedies, whereas if you just saw that segment you wouldn't even think it's a horror film. And they obviously the director wanted to do that to a lighten the mood a little bit from the violence and gore, and B, just to throw in that female empowerment vibe, which in this film actually came out way ahead of its time compared to every single film coming out today between like 2017 and 2021, where you have the whole female agenda like thrown at every movie. This one really came ahead of its time, and it was also at a time where they kind of hadn't figured out the balance and the art of it, like using it to where it actually works, because sometimes they throw things at the wall that absolutely miss when it comes to certain themes and everything. But when it comes to the themes, regardless, it's still ahead of its time, and it still did a good job with it. And the scenes are just funny, like the restaurant scene where Buddy he wants to continue the date because he talks about himself in third person. He's like, Jason senses that yada yada, and Jason is very career oriented, and I think Jason wants to whatever whatever. And she's writing "help me" on her mashed potatoes because she's just having the most awful time. And then he kind of hints that he wants to continue the date forward, like with dessert. And she's like, yeah, no, I gotta study, I gotta yada yada. And then when he figures that out, and he notices her immediately calling for the check, I love how he starts to break down the check to see what she pays for and what he pays for. It made me absolutely howl. Because I'm not gonna lie, if that was gonna be the final date, I probably would do the same thing. Because I'm a dick. But well, for other reasons too. I mean, first dates I generally don't pay everything anyway. It's kind of an agreed upon thing with me. But that's a whole different story. I just found it funny that he did it as soon as she said, I'm calling it a night, and I just want to go. He's like, okay, we're going to split the check. But then he just starts being an idiot. As soon as she leaves, she's like, you seriously need like some psychiatric help. And then he's like, oh, whatever. And then he turns around and just eyes some other girl, and he's like, Jason likes your dress. So funny. So good. So like post-90s kind of thing. I mean, 2000, 2001 is like like pretty much every film that came out, every horror film that came out in those 2 years, still feel 90s. So it's all the same thing. And this is the director of Urban Legend, which I also found out in the special features, which is cool. I would say Urban Legend is a better film than this one, but you can definitely tell that they have some similarities when it comes to the slasher genre, and the direction behind it, so it makes sense. Um, and then Shelley goes to work because she's in med school and she's working with some cadavers, and this is where we're introduced to the killer in a very cool way. The killer obviously pretends to be a cadaver himself when she goes off somewhere, and when she comes back, the body starts breathing, and it turns out to be the killer, and she freaks out. And turns out the killer put the cadaver in the freezer, so as soon as she opens the door to the freezer to go, like, either get a weapon or whatever she does, cadaver falls out, and then the body is off of the table where it was lying. And she's looking for, whoever it was, and she's freaking out. And the the killer, the way he looks, he has a Cupid mask, and I also like how the Cupid mask is not just the flat face; it's a full mask, completely like around his entire head. So that's cool. And then he wears this big, like really fancy kind of looking black trench coat with like the collars and just the black, long coat going down to his legs. And when he walks, like he's so intimidating with the broad shoulders and this Cupid mask. It's so good. He looks like a legit slasher killer. Your typical horror movie mask killer. Like they did a really good job in the in the character design of Cupid, or Jeremy, whoever whoever he is underneath that mask, or whatever he looks like in in modern times after elementary school or whatnot at the beginning of the film. And Shelley gets killed, and then you start following Lily, Paige, and Kate, and and Dorothy, and these people are just going to get picked off one by one, and there it goes. You get a lot of like Valentine's Day slasher poetry with him mailing everybody cards. Roses are red, violets are blue. They'll need dental records to identify you is one of my favorites, which Dorothy ends up getting. Dorothy is filthy rich. Dorothy is also a complete bitch throughout the entire film. She has this guy who she apparently met a month before, Campbell, who basically just invites himself sneakily, like just like a complete con. Invites himself, like basically he knows she's filthy rich, so he's clearly being selfish and playing everything to his advantage and using her. But of course, and she's insecure, so she just invites him in and makes the maid make a guest room for this random dude that she met a month prior. And one thing the director also mentioned in the special features is that he really wanted to make these girls likable, and he wanted the audience to sympathize with them, so that when they get killed off, that you would feel like angry and hurt and like miss them in a sense because they're so well developed. No, didn't work for me at all. I didn't like a single. Well, I mean, it's not that I didn't like their characters, but all of them were just so bitchy and catty that they were put there, in my opinion, just to be picked off. It's not because they're females in horror movies, and females in horror movies get slashed, because there are dudes that get slashed in this movie too, but just their attitude. When the director said like, "Oh, we're supposed to sympathize with these girls," I'm like, "What are you talking about? These girls are absolute horrible people." All of them too. Like none of them are innocent. I would say probably Shelley's the most innocent one, which is the first girl to get picked off. But she's not even in the film for that long, and she was a bully at the beginning of the film too. So whatever this killer's crazy motive is, I mean, he kind of has a point with how horrible these girls were to him as a kid. And obviously, it's mentioned that he spent some time in the mental ward, so you know. Yeah, there's a funny scene involving Dorothy's dad, the rich girl's dad. His wife is basically her age, So she's like got to be like mid-20s or something like that. I swear I thought they were roommates when she came into the screen, but then it ends up being the dad's wife. I'm like, oh, doggy. Whoa. Good for him, though. Good for him. Shitty for Dorothy, though. Calling her stepmom. Kate has this neighbor named Gary who's the biggest goof. I love when he's caught by the killer breaking into Kate's apartment and stealing her panties, which I think he was trying to try them on as well. And then when the killer beats his face in with the iron. Another thing I kind of wish that this film had was more focus and emphasis on the gore. I don't know how hard the MPAA like hit this film, like how hard they were on it, but a little bit more like detail of the kills and longer kills would probably be nice, because this guy is getting his face smashed in with a hot hammer and he only takes it twice, and you don't see him get hit, you just see the killer hit him on the face and the sound effects kind of thing. But yeah, a little bit more brutality to kill like that would benefit a horror movie, especially a slasher movie. So yeah, every guy in this film, though, it's funny because they all have a stereotype. There's this artistic guy named Max who is dating Lily, and there's this like show at an art gallery and stuff, which is kind of funny. The art gallery too, it kind of plays its stereotypes with the way art galleries are, with really weird art and stuff like that. And this guy is clearly like a total hipster of the time, and all like artistic and very sexual, perverted, like polygamous kind of guy. And and then Lily is having none of that, and they get into a fight eventually where she storms off and then gets killed. And I like her death too because she's plowed with bow and arrows, and the fact that the killer knows his archery is a good touch for Cupid, obviously, in a film about a slasher Valentine killer. It definitely works. There's a detective who is investigating this killer after these murders start happening, who's a total creep to Denise Richards' character, Paige. Ridiculous. Like, no fucks given, not sly whatsoever, just seriously direct. He's like, okay, so I feel this. I feel this sexual tension. This tension we have, it's there. She's like, what? It's like, wow. Zero game on the detective. Absolute zero. I wrote down Iron Kill, but I forget what Iron Kill means, or what I meant by that. Oh, Iron Kill with the hot iron? Okay, I already covered that. Kate's character, played by Marley Shelton, she looks a lot like Anna Faris, and I always have to, like, I know it's not her, but there's certain scenes, or the way she'll smile, or the way she'll laugh, or the way she'll look, that looks exactly like Anna Faris, and I'm like, holy shit. They could have been, like, sisters or clones or something at that time. The scene where the scene where Dorothy has sex with Campbell, and afterwards it becomes so awkward, once he leaves the bed. But then they go to the shower, and then it gets all normal again. And then, like, 5 minutes later, Campbell turns into the biggest prick when he's in the basement on the phone talking to somebody, and she calls him or intercoms him or whatever to relight the gas light so that the water heat can come back on. He's like, oh, whatever, I guess I'll do everything. I guess I'm the worker here now. I guess I'm like the hired hand working for free. I'm like, bitch, you're living there for free. You met this chick a month ago, and she's letting you live in her mansion, her daddy's mansion, for free, and you're complaining about lighting up a gas light. Go fuck yourself. And then Dorothy, basically the third act of the film is Dorothy's party in this mansion, and that's where most of the people start getting picked off. Um, there's a really funny scene too involving Paige. See, Paige always, well, not really. It's funny how a lot of the girls in this film end up in the weirdest situations. But this one is kind of interesting because this guy who Paige met closer to the beginning of the film through this speed dating place. By the way, there was a time prior to internet, which this film is completely prior to internet, where you actually went to a location to speed date, which is the real life Tinder. Um, and she ended up meeting this guy over there at the dating place who she now invites to this party. Another side note, there is a scene where there's a film that just came out this year called Rent-A-Pal, which involves a time where you would rent VHSs where you would record yourself as a dating service as well. And I never even heard of this until I watched Rent-A-Pal, but they feature it in this movie too, which I was reminded of, and it immediately reminded me of Rent-A-Pal, where you would go to this like dating video store where you would have these tapes, and you bring them home and watch a bunch of tapes of these people who are single and interested in dating who would introduce themselves. I like hiking, I like long walks on the beach, my name is yada yada. Blah blah blah, kind of like a profile but like on a video cassette. And then if you matched or if you were interested in somebody, you would go on a date. That's featured in here, and that is pretty interesting. It sounds a little tedious. I mean, the internet makes things way easier for that, but that's featured in here. Back to this dude, though. This dude invites her upstairs to show her a surprise, right? And she goes upstairs with him, and she's like, "What's the surprise?" And he whips off his pants, and he's like, "There you go." And she's like, "Wow, you really brought me up here to show me your penis?" Like she wasn't like she was expecting something else. I'm like, what do you think he's inviting you upstairs for? Show you a gold medal? Like what? Like I just did not understand her reaction. It was so random, and then she was so offending. She's like, "I'm going." He's like, "What? Aren't you gonna wax it?" I don't know why he would want his dick waxed unless he means. I don't know. I'm not even going to get into it, but he wants his dick waxed. So she, plays the dom and, ties him up to the bed and blindfolds him, and then when he least expects it, she takes a candle and pours wax on his cock. Because female empowerment, that's why. But seriously, like, what else was she expecting when he's like, "Hey, let's go upstairs. I got a surprise for you." Like, come on. You're in your mid-20s. You're not fucking 13, 14 years old and that naive, are you? The best kill involves Paige with the hot tub. That kill is amazing. I love how he traps her in the hot tub. I mean, that's claustrophobic enough, especially if on top of the fear of drowning. And then the massive drill that he uses to drill her inside, and he eventually gets her on the shoulder. And then he gets sick of drilling, he's like, fuck it, then he just opens the lid and throws the drill in there while it's plugged in, so she's completely electrocuted. That's the best kill of the film by far, and one of the best slasher kills in a lot of films. One of the best kills, period, when it comes to the slasher genre. I really enjoyed that one. Dorothy and Kate get into this ridiculous fight about, their boyfriends could be the killer, and they're like, what if your boyfriend's the killer? And it's like, oh, well, then in that case, your boyfriend could be the killer. He, Jeremy could have got some plastic surgery and changed his name, and his name could be Adam. Yeah, well, his name could also be Max or whatever. And they're just going back and forth about each other's boyfriends potentially being the killer, and it's like, people are getting murdered. You've got, bigger things to worry about, like maybe escaping with your life. Oh, slasher movies. And then Adam, who is Kate's boyfriend, and who has been Kate's boyfriend for the film. I don't even think I brought him up yet. But yeah, Adam is basically a recovering alcoholic, even though he's an alcoholic, but I don't think he shows much interest in wanting to stop drinking. He wants to do it for her, but he doesn't try very hard. And he's up and down. Like he's likable for the most part. Like he has somewhat of a head on his shoulders. He's well spoken. He's charming in a sense. Kate is obviously obsessed with him and forgives him for a lot of things. But I'm not gonna say that him being revealed as the killer was that surprising, especially with the way he started to act in the last 10 minutes. I thought it was kind of clever that he used Dorothy to frame by putting her in the Cupid costume, but I don't know if it was executed that well. Because how would he put her in the costume and then make her attack Katie? Like, was she at gunpoint? Just did he throw her at her? I understand his motive to frame Dorothy because Dorothy was going a little psychotic herself at the end, but I just don't understand how he would be able to pull that off. Adam, I mean. But I did find it kind of cool, and I did find the twist where his nose starts to bleed because the Cupid killer's nose always bleeds, basically when he's about to kill somebody, or when he gets nervous, I guess. It's a nervous tick for him. And I thought that was a cool reveal for Adam anyway. So, I mean, it's a slasher filled with tropes, and I really enjoyed it. It's fun. I mean, it's a holiday slasher, so you gotta watch it on Valentine's Day. It's one of the best. And it fits right in with every other slasher, like Slumber Party Massacre, and, I'm gonna be reviewing My Bloody Valentine too, which I actually watched for the first time. I've never seen it before. And, yeah, man, like, it's, you can't complain about films like this because you know exactly what you're getting into. So either you don't like this style of film, or you do. Like, it's just one or the other. But you can't walk into this film and be like expecting greatness and then be disappointed when you don't get it. You know what I mean? It's just one of those films where you know what you're getting into, so you know if you like it or not. And I'm on the like it side. I mean, it's not perfect, but it sure doesn't deserve 12% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's not that bad, okay? It's not great, but it's not that bad. And it's a lot of fun, It's entertaining enough. It comes loaded with special features. I did watch the audio commentary. It was okay. I've heard better commentaries. Commentaries are such hit and miss. This one didn't really, dive into a lot. It was mainly, well, it's with the director, the author of Crystal Lake Memories, the Friday the 13th whole history book, and another guy. Oh yeah, the director of Phantasm, the director of the 5 Phantasm films, Don Coscarelli. So it's the three of those guys just discussing, the camera work. Rick Boda shot this film actually, who ended up directing 3 of the Hellraiser sequels, the direct-to-video ones. And yeah, they go on discussing, their filmographies and film histories and stuff like that. Not too much focused on what's happening in the film, other than oh, there was a double over here. Oh, there was just little minor things that aren't super important. But it is nice to know that this is the same director as Urban Legend, which is cool to know. Again, I don't know why I wrote this down. I want you to like the girls. Anyways, I don't know what I meant by that. But yeah, good cast. Denise Richards obviously went to bigger, better things. Katherine Heigl obviously went to bigger, better things. Like I said, she doesn't like to associate herself with these movies, which is a personal choice, but, you know. And yeah, it's a cool movie, man. It's a cool movie. For Valentine's Day, check it out on Scream Factory. Tons of interviews too. On the interviews are some of the best. Some of them are long too. The writers the writers interview, which I didn't see yet because it's over an hour long. They've got that whole thing. They've got an interview with the editor, an interview with the composer, and I think I mentioned it already with 3 interviews with Marley Shelton, Denise Richards, and Jessica Cauffiel. And they all go into the period and time that this film was made prior to movements and Me Too's and all that, and prior to the internet, which really puts this film in a certain period piece kind of thing, which is nice. So, okay, this is going over half an hour. That's my Valentine's Day special. I'm going to be reviewing my Bloody Valentine as well. So, Valentine's Day double feature is here, and that's all I got with this one. So, I will be back for more. Subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you like to hear my voice, if you like my reviews. And I will be chatting really, really soon. So cheers and good night.